Well, hello there. My name is Mr. Ippolito, and I am your child's 8th grade U.S. History and Government teacher for the 2021-22 school year here at Rio Norte Junior High School. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started with our back-to-school night presentation. All right, so first of all, who is Mr. Ippolito? Well, I am first and foremost a husband and father. This is my wife, Heather. We are very soon going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of our first date, the homecoming dance 1991. We both attended Canyon High School. Speaking of Canyon High School, there's my daughter, Libby, who is now a 9th grader at Canyon High School. She just finished her last 2 years, 7th and 8th grade at Rio Norte Junior High School. Even though much of it was in quarantine, she still loved her teachers at Rio Norte. So I not only enjoy teaching at Rio Norte and love my job there, but also was very proud to have a child there for 2 years at Rio Norte. It's a great school. We love spending time together, hanging out together, doing all sorts of fun stuff together, including historical travel. That photo over there on the left is us in Washington, D.C. That is the African-American Smithsonian Museum that just recently opened a couple of years ago. This photo right here is Mount Vernon, George Washington's home in Virginia. We have James Madison's home there, over there on the left. There's me speaking to our shortest president, at only 5'4" tall. Over here on the right, there's me at the Alamo in Texas. So love historical travel. Speaking of historical travel, we've also visited all 1,111 California historical landmarks. We did it over the course of 3.5 years. You can see in the photos, my daughter is a little bit younger back then, but we finished it before she finished 4th grade. Memorial Day weekend of 4th grade, we finally finished it. So we love spending time together, traveling, visiting historic sites, and just being with each other. All right. And then finally, who is Mr. Ippolito? Well, I'm also a proud product of the Hart District as well. I attended Sierra Vista Junior High School, graduated from Canyon High School, then graduated from UCLA with a degree in history. I am a proud product of Santa Clarita, right? This is my 26th year teaching in the William S. Hart District. I love Starbucks. I love Chi-Chi's Pizza. Havana Savannah, brand new. Love that too. And I also love working at Rio Norte. And like I said, your child is at a great school. All right. What are we learning in this class? So we start off by learning about ancient Greece and ancient Rome, right? The foundations of where our United States government came from, right? Greek democracy, the Roman Republic. We're learning about the Declaration of Independence. We actually just finished learning about the Declaration of Independence and had a Socratic seminar recently on Thomas Jefferson, and you can talk to your child about that. I encourage you to have a conversation with them about that. We are now leading into, right now we're learning about the Articles of Confederation, leading into the Constitutional Convention. Right, so there's George Washington there. There is that Rising Sun chair, which your child is going to learn about very soon. Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, Roger Sherman, all of the rock stars of the Constitutional Convention there. We're then going to get into the details of the Constitution, some of which we've already been learning because your child. But when we first got started, we talked about understanding American identity, learning why it's important to be an American, what it means to be an American, why we're proud to be Americans, all of us in our class. And we also took the USCIS civics exam, right? So it's the same exam that people who want to become citizens of this country have to take. And your child took it as well. And just like if you're trying to become a citizen and you don't pass the first time, you could take it over and over again. Your child, if they were not happy with that score, they can take it over and over again. I'm offering retakes once a week until the end of the quarter, which is mid-October. So if they're not happy with the first grade they got, they can keep taking it until they get a score that they are happy with. All right, then we get into what I call the early Republic period, right? So I have Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton here representing the foundation of American political parties. And then we learn about the George Washington administration and kind of going forward from there. We're then going to very quickly get into our second war, the War of 1812, where we go back to war with the British and we really kind of really solidify that American identity and that American pride, right? Even though this wasn't really a military victory, I would say it's more of a military stalemate. But one of the things that we did win in the War of 1812 was really feeling proud to be Americans because we fought to a draw basically in the War of 1812. Nothing won, nothing lost, but definitely a sense of American pride. We got our national anthem from it, and so we're going to be learning all about the War of 1812. We're also going to be learning about the art and literature of the 1800s. This painting is called The Oxbow by Thomas Cole. You can see it's kind of a self-portrait, little Thomas Cole right there, portrait of himself. In addition to art, like I said, literature, there's the legend of Rip Van Winkle. So we'll be learning about art and literature of the 1800s. So, and then kind of the legends of American history, right? So we're going to be learning about these complex figures in American history, about how, sometimes our heroes, when we take a deeper look at them, we realize, there are also some not very heroic things about them. But what that does is, really, you think of all of us, we're all humans. And as much as we want to put people on a pedestal, when we learn that they're actually human and we learn kind of the human foibles and failings about these very larger than life figures, I think we can actually learn to appreciate them more and have a really, a better understanding and appreciation of American history. So this story right here that's being depicted in this image is the story of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is not the guy with the sword. Andrew Jackson is actually this young kid right here. So your child is going to learn this story of Andrew Jackson, and we're going to have that complex discussion about Andrew Jackson among other American figures and heroes and public figures. All right, this is Manifest Destiny. So we're going to learn about westward expansion, Manifest Destiny, and all that went into that, including the annexation of Texas and the California Gold Rush and all of that. And then that's going to lead us into a discussion of industrialization, learning about what we call the antebellum period, right? Ante meaning is Latin for before, and bellum meaning the war. So antebellum period is the time period before the Civil War, ante, A-N-T-E, sort of like the bet that you place before a round of poker starts. So antebellum period. So this is the antebellum North. We're going to learn about the antebellum South. We'll learn all about slavery and the plantation system and the Southern class system in the South and antebellum America in the South. And then that leads us into the Civil War. So we'll learn about the causes of the Civil War and then the actual Civil War itself, and then the results of the Civil War, right? So we learn about, for example, the Gettysburg Address and those inspiring words and how Abraham Lincoln drew inspiration from the Declaration of Independence from Thomas Jefferson. Following that, we learn about Reconstruction, the Freedmen's Bureau. Before we get to that, though, we are going to have that discussion about Confederate monuments. Again, I want this class to not just be the study of dead people, but a conversation. I want your child to engage in the types of conversations that are happening in our country right now. But I want them to be polite, respectful, well thought, well constructed, well researched conversations. I feel like there was a time when we used to have civil conversations in our country, and I think that's kind of broken down on both sides of the political aisle. And I would like for your child to build that back up again, right? Where we can have honest disagreements and we can have respectful disagreements, but at the end of the day, we come together because we're all Americans. That is a statue of Robert E. Lee right there. So we will be having a discussion on Confederate monuments, the KKK, the Freedmen's Bureau, Reconstruction, and everything that happened after the Civil War. And then finally, ending off on the story of immigration into the United States in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I know that I had many ancestors myself who came through Ellis Island, as a matter of fact, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so we'll talk about kind of the various points of entry and the different forms of immigration in those countries where those immigrants came from during that time period. In addition, your child is also learning things like critical thinking, sourcing reliably, problem solving, speaking and listening. Like I mentioned before, civil discourse, reconciling opposing views, civic participation. Again, the bottom line is I want your child to be proud to be an American and to be able to engage in that civic discourse, right? Civic discourse and civil discourse so that they can have these kinds of discussions. And they're going to be, I know it sounds cliche, but they are going to be the future leadership of our country. And so we want to be able to leave it in good hands, not only speaking as a teacher myself, but also as a parent myself as well. We want to prepare our children for the nation and the world that they're inheriting. Speaking of which, how can I help my child? Just to kind of wrap up here, instead of sending the email on their behalf, for example, help them compose the email and then have them CC you on it. So I know a lot of times as parents, we want to jump in, we want to help, we want to advocate. We write much better emails than our children do usually. But again, we got to help them do it. We were just on vacation and my daughter wanted to find out what time the apple orchard opened. We were going apple picking. But the website, it was Labor Day, so we weren't quite sure. So we said, call. She's like, I have to call? Yes, you have to call. And so she had to make that uncomfortable phone call. She's like, this is weird. I don't like it. Well, in the real world, adults have to make phone calls, right? In the real world, adults have to send emails. And so the only way they're going to learn about how to do that is by practicing, right? So encourage them to do it themselves and help them out if they need it. Encourage your child to advocate for themselves, have them speak to their teacher for the things that they need. And then finally, this is something you can do together. Check Infinite Campus for grades and missing assignments, and check Google Classroom for daily work. I post everything on Google Classroom. If, of course, if you have any questions and you'd like to contact me, you're free to reach out to me. There's my email address right there, Ippolito@heartdistrict.org. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate and enjoy having your child in my class. Thanks so much. Have a great evening. Take care. Bye-bye.